Thank you for coming today. I know it's been quite hard for you to attend, but congratulations, this is a major first step for you, so well done for that. Okay, so this is going to be an introductory session for your DBT, which is dialectic behavioural therapy. And you've recently been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, is that right? Okay. And just before I start talking about DBT and explaining about the therapy and how it works, what do you understand about borderline personality disorder? Okay. Okay. Yep, that's right. You're right. There is a lot of stigma about it, which is a shame. But these days, it's a lot more understood. So, borderline personality is really about the prevalence of unstable moods, which, as I'm talking, I'm sure you'll be able to recognise a lot of instances. Whereas one person may have a trigger that would create a mood state that would upset them. With someone with borderline personality disorder, they would be triggered, and the emotion would be so high it will take a while for them to calm down and to level out. So, for example, the end of a relationship, everyone gets upset, distressed at the end of a relationship. But for someone with borderline personality disorder, it would literally be the end of the world. And whereas the average person may take a few weeks, someone may feel that their world has ended to the extent that they can't continue anymore. To them, the only way out would be through ending their life or engaging in destructive behaviours. So rather than feeling upset and distressed as is normal or perhaps average, someone with borderline would be inconsolable and quite a danger to themselves. Also, it will be the same with anger. If someone upsets them or makes them angry, rather than feeling angry for a little bit of the time, the anger would be so extreme it might take them a while to calm down. Also, you might find yourself engaging in impulsive behaviours to cope with high emotion, perhaps spending more than you have, getting into debt. Some people do engage in promiscuous activities. They might take drugs, anything to escape from the emotion. So really, borderline is about having really intense high emotion and being unable to cope with it. Someone who fulfills the criteria with borderline personality disorder would be someone who not only experiences intense high emotion, they might self-harm, they might engage in suicidal ideation, engage in impulsive activities, and basically for a long period of time, years and years, really find it difficult to control their emotions. Is that something that you can relate to? Okay, yeah. Just reading some of your notes here, actually. It does seem like that you did score quite highly on that. But what I would say that's really key about borderline personality disorder is that there is a lot of stigma attached to it, yes. But unlike things like schizophrenia or bipolar, a lot of people do recover from borderline. Recover's probably not the best word to use, but learn to cope with it. And something like DBT can actually give you back a life worth living, really help you deal with your emotions. And the skills you're taught, the tools that you're given, mean that high emotion no longer rule your life. You'll be a lot more in control of yourself. Yeah. Definitely. Okay. So please don't worry, I can see you're looking quite tense there, so just try to relax. I'm not going to ask you anything about your difficulties yet. That will be for another session. This is just an introductory session, me talking about DBT, and really it's just getting to know each other and seeing whether this therapy is actually right for you. It might not be. So, deep breath. Okay, let's just take this very slowly. And if you need a break, absolutely fine. There's a drink of water there. You can have a toilet break, whatever. So just take this really nice and slowly, okay? I am going to take just a few notes. But these are absolutely confidential. It's just for me to just really understand what's going on for you. So for a later session, if you do decide to come back, then I can refer to those notes. It won't be shown to anyone else. Is that okay? Great, okay. Okay, so I've explained a little bit about borderline personality disorder, and I understand that has been a relief for you to have a diagnosis. So let me explain about DBT. First, are you familiar with DBT? What do you know about that? Yeah, okay. Yes, you're right. It is similar to CBT in that it is an approach that works on the thought processes, but it's about behaviours that we're changing. We operate on the premise that we can't change thoughts. Yes, we can have thoughts, we can manage them, but it's the behaviours that cause the difficulties. The main thing to understand about DBT is that it's a mindfulness approach. And what I mean by mindfulness is it's about awareness, it's about noticing, it's about observing. So with all the skills that we teach you, and we do teach you a lot, we also teach you about mindfulness. So while someone with who's in high emotion, in emotion mind we call it, who are unable to get in touch with their rational thought, who is so triggered, who is so unhappy, who is so depressed or angry or low or whatever it is, they'll be absolutely entrenched in their emotion. Whereas with more mindfulness, it teaches you to step back and actually think, okay, I'm having this thought, I'm feeling sad at the moment, what can I do about it? Rather than just feeling. Do you see the difference? Great, okay. So the four main skills you'll be taught in DBT is mindfulness, which is absolutely key, interpersonal effectiveness, distress tolerance, and emotional regulation. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of all of those. So part of the therapy is you'll be given some flashcards like these, kind of nice laminated, and these cards are simply to remind you which skills to use, because we recognise that when you're in high emotion you can't see the woods for the trees, and you want to be reminded, you need something as a reminder which skill is going to be best for you. Oh, sorry there. So we have 4 lots. We have, this is distress tolerance. I'll go through these in a minute. We have emotional regulation skill. We have interpersonal effectiveness. And we have mindfulness skills. Now there is going to be probably a lot to take in with this, but remember that DBT lasts for around 2 years, and in addition to your one-to-one therapy with myself, you'll have a skills class. Now that's not group therapy. That is where you'll have a workbook and you'll be taught these skills. You'll be given an opportunity to go home and practice a skill a week. So plenty of time to practice and really get to grips with it. And that's also got a good opportunity to talk to your therapist about skills you perhaps struggle with, you need a bit more help with. Though the skills class, you don't necessarily talk about your personal difficulties. That's for these sessions between you and myself. These skills cards were purely about the skills and how you got on with using them in your everyday life. Okay, are you with me so far? Okay, great. So let's go through some of these skills. Let me just have a look. Okay. Okay. So I've kind of talked a little bit about mindfulness skill. So this skill is in the moment, and this is teaching you to focus on what is happening at that time. So it's about doing one thing at a time. It's about letting go of distractions. It's do each thing with all of your attention. So whether that's drinking a cup of tea and really noticing how hot it is or how warm, noticing how it feels, noticing the feel of the cup. Basically it's focusing on the now, and that can be really grounding. Another one you might want to think about is effectiveness. And this is about focusing on what works. It might be doing what needs to be done. Sometimes it might be keeping an eye on your objectives and doing what is necessary. This is really good if you're in emotion mind and you don't know, and there's so many options and you're so distressed you can't do the obvious thing, and it's about stepping back and acting skillfully in that context. More about that in the skills class. Non-judgmental stance. Very often people with borderline, they're very judgmental and critical of themselves. This is about being aware of the situation, sorting opinions from facts. It's accepting each moment. It's about acknowledging the helpful and the harmful. So importantly, don't judge the judging. Wise mind. This is absolutely key in DBT. The whole premise of DBT is that there's three states of mind. There's emotion mind, which is when we're in high emotion and we're very distressed and we can't think straight. There's reasonable mind, which is you're so focused on what has to be done, you're not listening to your emotions at all. It might be when you're writing shopping lists, it might be when you're getting obsessed with doing things on time to schedule. And we say in DBT that the best way of operating as much as you can is wise mind, which is a balance between the two. Observe, just notice. It's about controlling your attention, watching the thoughts come and go. Okay, so now we move on to relationship effectiveness. Again, a lot of people with borderline personality have really difficulty asking for what they want. And this teaches you how to be more assertive, and getting what you want, or trying to, in a really effective way, which will help you maintain relationships. So these are really good skills for that. Relationship effectiveness is helping you maintain a relationship while asking for what you want, and there's some key skills along with that. Objective effectiveness might be not in a specific relationship situation, but it might be asking for what you want in the context of getting a refund. And the skills you'll be taught will help you how to do this skillfully in the most effective way. Self-respect effectiveness is about asking for what you want so that your self-respect is intact. And again, if these all seem a bit vague at the moment, you're actually taught you're given how-to guides on how to do all of these. So these are just an overview. How are we doing so far? Do you need a breather? that's fine. Actually, this is a lie. This is one of my favourite skills. We're moving on now to distress tolerance skills. Distress tolerance is when you are actually in high emotion. You can't change the situation. You have no control over it. What do? And this is a skill to use to stop you self-harming, to stop you doing something that will hurt yourself. And one of the tools we use within this skill set is self-soothe. Self-soothe might be you basically focus on all your senses. It might be thinking about your favourite scents. You might have your favourite perfume. It will thinking about taste. You might want to cook your favourite meal. Sight, looking up some photographs. Hearing, it might be your favourite music. Touch, perhaps it might be having a bath, putting some hand lotion on. So self-soothe is anything to do with the senses that really calms you. A skill that's not officially taught in DBT, but something that we do like teaching for self-soothe is ASMR, which is a feeling, a response to stimuli that really, really relaxes you. It might be a softly spoken voice. It's basically sound based. It might be a softly spoken voice, it might be tapping, it might be the sound of water, anything like that that really relaxes you. And basically some people say it gives them tingles, so that might be another option which might be good for self-soothe if you're feeling distressed. Another one is another skill here. Improve the moment. Again, the distress tolerance skills, these are all skills to do when you're in high emotion and you can't do anything about the reason you're in high emotion at that point. It might be that you're at work, you've been told you've been made redundant, or someone's just told you something that you're really upset about and you can't control it. So it's all about managing these. So the self-soothe I said, or improving the moment, might be imagining some relaxing scenes. It might be finding meaning in the difficulty. If you're religious, you might want to resort to prayer. It might be relaxation. It might be something like vacation, which means you might want to go to the toilet, take a breather, have time out. This is probably one of the hardest skills, radical acceptance. And this is accepting what's happened is painful and accepting it as it is. Now, accepting it is not liking it. It is absolutely pure accepting it, and sometimes just by accepting it can give you the solution. So to give you an analogy, which we always teach for people who find radical acceptance difficult, is a family move into a new house. And when they move in, they notice that the walls of the house are painted purple. They absolutely hate the colour purple, and they're furious. They rage, they storm up and down, they're so angry. Whereas just down the road is a hardware, there's a DIY store with some paint of all kinds of different colours sold really cheaply. They were so busy hating the fact that the walls were purple, whereas if they'd accepted it, they would have been able to think about solutions and go down to the store and find some different paint. Distract scale often comes with a warning. This is good to use very occasionally. We would never advocate distracting yourself from emotion that comes up a lot, because that's not facing it. But sometimes if you're in a really high emotion and you need to get on with the day rather than focusing on it, distracting is a really good skill to use. And that might be something by watching a film. That might be thinking, I'm going to push away this thought and put it in a box in my head until I'm ready to think about it. Anything that will help you distract yourself for a short period of time. Pros and cons are another good one, and this is good if you have a decision to make. Think about all the pros of doing a certain decision or choice, and all the cons. And if you're someone who makes impulsive decisions, that is a really good skill to get in the habit of doing. Build positive experiences is also really good for depression. So if you're feeling really low, or again if you've been triggered, it's really important to think of positive experiences you can be doing in the short term or in the long term. Sort of research, of course, to say that people who have a lot of enjoyment in their lives, who do a lot of positive things, are healthier people, which sounds obvious, but if you think about someone who's very depressed, they don't give themselves permission to do things that are enjoyable. That might be simple things. It might be going to a cafe and having a hot chocolate. It might be going to see a film. It might be just going to the park and admiring the flowers, or feeling the fresh breeze on your face, or looking at some photographs. Whatever it is, however simple, if it gives you pleasure, then, and it's healthy, then do it. Another module we're taught is emotion regulation skill, and this is basically ensuring that in the long run you are emotionally regulated as possible, which means you can control your emotions in the long run. And a good way of doing this is ensuring that you take care of yourself, which again sounds very obvious, but the skill we use for this is the please skill, and that stands for please physical illness, treat physical illness. If you've got a headache, take medication for it. It stands for eating, getting good nutrition. It's about avoiding mind-altering drugs. It's about getting good sleep, and it's about getting exercise. So please skill is all about looking after yourself, because you'll find that if you're low and you really think, not necessarily the reason, but it might exacerbate it if you're feeling low and you haven't looked after yourself, if you've got a headache, you haven't been eating properly, if you haven't been sleeping well, if you haven't been getting exercise, you'll find you're less likely to cope with the problems. So if you use this skill, the please skill, to ensure that every other aspect of your life is taken care of, you will be able to cope with problems a lot easier, in a lot rather more skillfully. Build mastery is another skill, and this is basically making yourself feel good. It's about doing skills, craft skills perhaps, or doing things that you enjoy doing, that you can really say, I've achieved something. It might be drawing, it might be writing in a journal, it might be vacuum cleaning. Whatever it is, at the end of the day, if you can look back and you think, I've achieved something, that's really good at building self-esteem and making you feel good. So this module, emotional regulation, is about the long term, about ensuring that you're emotionally regulated in the long term. It's not about solving problems at that point. That's what the distress tolerance skill is about. So that's a very brief overview of these skills, and there's a lot to take in. So what I suggest now is let's just have some quite reflective time. I won't ask you to talk because your head's probably reeling with information. So let's just have some very quiet time, and let's just listen to some sounds around us. In a way, this is a good practice for mindfulness, and this is what we teach. We do a lot of formal mindfulness training, which is similar to meditation. So what I'll teach you today is about counting the breaths, and we'll do that for 1 to 2 minutes, for a few minutes. So sit in a relaxed position. Okay, and take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. So what I want you to do is just tune in to any sounds that you can hear, and any thoughts that come in, no matter what they are. Notice those thoughts, but don't pay attention to them unduly. Let them go. and bring yourself back into focusing on the sounds in this room. Okay? Are you with me? Okay, lovely. Just while you're doing that, and this of course might help, is I'm going to just take a few notes. So any sounds that you can hear, whether it's my note taking, it might be sound of heating, it might be a car driving by, just let that come and go. Notice it. And any thoughts that you have, maybe you're worrying about getting home, you're worrying about the next few days, notice those thoughts. Then bring yourself back into focusing on the here and now and focusing on the sounds that you can hear. Okay? Okay, great. Let's get started.